Hi, everybody. My name is Annie Parker, and I'm the Global Director for Equity and Inclusion in the Microsoft for Startups team. And you are joining us today for the How a Woman Can Actually Be Your Superpower. We're going to talk you through exactly how that works and what some advice from some incredible badass women founders who are going to talk to you about their experiences too. But before we introduce our guests, I also wanted to introduce my co-host today, Ruth Yakubu.
Thanks, Annie. Hi, everyone. My name is Ruth Yakubu, and I'm a senior cloud advocate at Microsoft, and I specialize in AI and machine learning. As Annie mentioned, we have two awesome founders joining us today. First, I have Tope Mitchell and also Lorena Soriano joining us.
Hi, I'm Dr. Tope Mitchell. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Reflect Me. Thank you.
And Serena?
Oh, sorry, I lost everyone here. Hi, my name is Lorena. I am the founder and CEO of Every.1.
Well, welcome, ladies. Thank you so much for joining us for this session. It's going to be super cool to just get some of your experiences out there and hopefully inspire some other women to think that they can also start companies too. So let's kick off with the first question. Lorena, can you start for us and just give us an overview of your company and what problem you're solving?
Absolutely. So Every.1 is a B2B software solution that helps science and tech leaders create actionable, socially responsible practices. Now, we've all read the headlines that show biases exist in science and technology, and employees, customers, and investors are demanding more from these companies, which actually results in science and tech leaders making promises and being anti-racist, diverse, ethical, and accessible with either no follow-through or just standalone solutions. We come in and we help them incorporate social responsibility into their DNA by focusing on the entire company versus just one single department.
Wow, talk about a product and a solution that's definitely needed out there. Hey, Tope, how about you? What does Reflect Me do?
Reflect Me is a B2B SaaS platform that empowers brands to speak to the needs of 100% of their online shoppers instead of only 30% of their potential shoppers. So with the click of a button, a size 14 can actually see a real size 14 person enjoying the clothing. And so this is achieved at scale for all sizes to increase conversion, engagement, and acquisition while decreasing returns and cart abandonment. Because as you know, people will jump off and go to Instagram if you don't give them a photo of someone who looks like them enjoying the product. The great part is it's fun. We transform e-commerce sites into an inclusive digital experience that harnesses all that joy of social media, UGC, and influencer content right there on our client's e-commerce site.
That's an amazing solution, Tope, because I can think of so many times I've ordered things online, and when I try it on, I look like SpongeBob, and I'm like, okay, this was not the part of the plan. So I end up returning a lot of stuff. So I am so looking forward for a lot of retailers to adopt your solution. So ladies, how does technology play a role in your company? I'll start with Lorena.
Technology, I feel like, especially in this pandemic world, we see that technology is all around us, not just in front of us here on our computer. So number one, we are a 100% remote team, and technology has allowed us to do that. One of our co-founders is in Florida. I'm here in Seattle. Well, another one of my co-founders is actually upstairs, but we still end up having our meetings completely separate. So there's that technology side on top of connecting with our clients. Our product is 100% online, but I say technology helps us because that is 100% what our clients do. Whether they're in the biotech space, they're in AI, everything and anything that they're creating is 100% online, and they're using technology to be able to do that. So we are tied to technology just because of the work that our clients are doing, and we have to understand that work that they're doing. So therefore we have to know the technology as well.
I'm curious, are you guys coming up with standards for the technology space and auditing for some of the technologies that people produce?
Yeah, that's such a great question. Originally, when we did a pivot from EveryPoint1, and you can go on our website, read our story, how we knew that we had to pivot. We thought that companies actually already had standards and policies put in place when it came to diversity, equity, inclusion, social responsibility. We met with startups all the way to enterprise-sized companies, and we saw that they actually didn't. So yes, we have created standards. We've met with subject matter experts. We've met with employees. We've met with managers, people that are actually building the product, to create these standards where we work with the companies so that way they can create their own internal policies using our standards. So that way they can roll them out through recruitment, retention, sales, marketing, product development, data bias, and also governance, because we need that rolling in, from the board and the C-suite. It's great that if a manager or an employee wants to have this, but if they don't have the support from the board or the C-suite, we all know that that's not going to happen.
That's for sure. Same question for you, Tope. What role does technology play for your business solution?
It's interesting. I've had a very similar journey that Lorena has had. Because we're a SaaS platform, we cut through so many of the pain points that our clients have in terms of scaling the recruitment of diverse models at scale. If you want to show every single size, that's a big operational ceiling. And so because we're SaaS, we have 2 intersecting portals that can deploy straight to our button. It helps them to cut through recruitment, management, curating all of that content, deploying diverse content creation across channels, their e-commerce site. They can also use the content on social media, promotional materials, and emails. And so if we weren't on a SaaS platform, if we weren't, a SaaS platform, that would be tons of man hours, a lot of DMing and using, emails and not having a way for everyone in the organization to use the tool. But we found from talking with over nearly 100 professionals that what they also love about us is that we've put in a whole lot of work to make something look simple. So having API integration, right? Having just a ability from our client portal to just generate a JavaScript snippet and stick it wherever they want it to go on their website. Just cutting through the time and the lift is all capable due to technology. And similarly to Lorena, our team is in North Carolina. I'm based in North Carolina. We also have our CTO who's in LA, and we have 2 people in LA. We have a team member in Argentina, a team member in Tel Aviv. So we're using multiple components to get everything together and working 24 hours a day all over the world.
That's amazing.
That's super cool, and I love the fact that technology gives us that ability to have such distributed teams around the world. I think that's a great call out. So moving into we're all women here. We're women in tech. You're both leading startups and building companies, and oftentimes we hear lots of talk about how being a woman in tech is actually it's harder. There are barriers in place. But I kind of wanted to throw the question and spin it a little bit and talk about what is it about being a woman in tech that actually gives you a bit of an unfair advantage. So can you talk a little bit about that, Lorena? And we'll start with you.
Yeah, so we hear all the time that there are the disadvantages, which they are. But you know what, as women, I always say we know how broken the world is, right? And I'm seeing the sunlight here. Clearly, the Seattle sun decided to come out and play today. But as women, we understand and we know how broken the world is. From, period inequity products to I'm 5 feet tall, so you can probably just have fun just watching me here, navigate how I reach the top cabinet, those types of things. But as women in STEM, we have learned the way that the world works, all the way from atoms up into everything that's in space, and we know how to build it and fix it. So we know the problems that exist. We have the tools and the resources, the education to do that. So when you put those 2 things together, magic happens. On top, look at all of us that are here today. we are a community. We want to work together. We want to support one another. So what's great and magical is that when we get into those rooms, that is where the unfair advantages come in, because we automatically start to connect. And it's like, I know this person, I know this amazing woman that's doing this. Let me connect you. Dr. Tope, we got introduced via email. Annie, you facilitate that introduction. And what did I do? I saw Reflect Me, immediately pulled it up. I was like, oh my God, this woman is amazing. She's changing just like the world for all of us. And yeah, I felt a little intimidated, but I emailed her right back and I was like, okay, Tope, we're going to have to connect after like we do this. That's the thing that women do. We connect. There's no competition. It's all about community and working together. It's what happens after, you know, these meetings. We're all, you know, going to be networking and connecting. And that's when the magic happens, where you're working on this, you're working on this. Let's come together and make magic happen. So I say that is an amazing advantage that we have as women.
Couldn't agree more, Lorena. How about you, Tope?
Oh, you know, Lorena killed it. She killed that question, I have to say. But I definitely agree. We as women, there's a quote that I used to always have to look at. We are the knowers but unknown, right? And so because we are the knowers but unknown, we tend to have to solve our own problems, right? Products tend to get made by people who aren't us, and they're just pushed on top of us. So now we're at this time where we can create these solutions that not only help us, but help those around us. So I completely agree that because, you know, we're in this space, it gives us this level of understanding. And it's sometimes easier to think about even in terms of culture. Like, my dad is from Nigeria, my mom is from America. So when you hear multiple languages and multiple ways of understanding the world, it gives you a broader understanding of the world, right? And when you straddle cultures, right, it helps you to understand the nuances between the two. And so that's definitely, you know, for like men who maybe are in two different cultures, to understand what it's like for us as women, is that we understand ourselves, and then we really have to understand how everything works for men, because we have to survive in this, you know, society that they definitely control. And I know that it's been fantastic again to find these communities, because, like, as Lorena said, we are so collaborative. And so even meeting Ruth, you know, I met her at Black Women Talk Tech. And so as I had this idea and was pulling into my network, it was fantastic to find these other women who want you to succeed, who create spaces for you to succeed. And exactly, you know, like we're talking about, you have this shared level of understanding. So that has been what's been, you know, very, very exciting for me, is to just uplift other women, to be uplifted by other women. And that's been the most fantastic part about it.
That sounds amazing. Sounds like we're superheroes. So, talk about superheroes. Women, one of the traits that we're known for is we're good multitaskers. Some of us are caregivers, some of us are parents, spouses, some of us are gourmet chefs at our own houses. But we don't get paid for some of these in-house or even personal engagements that we have in our lives. But on top of that, we also have to, in you guys' cases, you have to run your business. So for me, that's a lot of multitasking to get things done. Do you guys experience this as women in STEM, as founders, to juggle all of this different nuances? I'll start with Tope, Dr. Tope.
Thank you. Yes, this question speaks to my soul, because I have, you know, I started this company so inspired by my daughter and creating a better world for her. And in February 2020, I gave birth to my second child, and then we went into lockdown. So a lot of the support systems that I had outside of the home completely dissipated, right? And so now I have 2 children, I have a new venture, and, I have to maintain all of this. So it was definitely, an act of, I'm going to just say, I feel sheer heroism that I was able to keep moving forward, to bring on clients. We were in 3 accelerators at the time. And my husband took a picture of me one time, and I don't know if this is safe for Microsoft, but I was feeding my son with my laptop up, working. Like, okay, you can't see him, he's not here. My husband just took a picture. I was like, what are you doing? But he was just like, you have to see this. Like, you have to see what this looks like, that, Beyonce wrote the lyrics of "We have the babies and get back to business." And you are just like so driven to change the world for your children that the extra, what we call in sociology, the second shift, right? Second, third shift of coming home and having higher expectations, that you as a woman still have to work, for, 40, 60 hours a week, and then still maintain the home. And, my husband he's a millennial. He definitely is a great father, and he definitely contributes, but there's things he just doesn't know how to do, right? Or there are things that he's not expected to do by society. So he doesn't have as much of an emotional burden to like keep that up, or societal pressure that you're the one who needs to keep that up, right? So I can go on and on, but it's definitely been so helpful that we've had so many resources and so much support from programs like the ones where you just joined the back PI, and just getting so much support and so many resources for Microsoft, that it's like we can still kill it. Like, with the support, with people behind us saying, we believe in you, and we know that if you can breastfeed a child and make $1 million deal at the same time, that you deserve to be uplifted. Whereas sometimes, you're looked at as a woman as you cannot perform as well, or you are torn between 2 worlds, rather than you hold up to, there's statues of men holding up one world, and we tend to hold 2 or 3. So I'm going to stop there.
That's an amazing analogy and visual. So thanks for sharing that. Lorena, how about you?
I want to give just major props right now just to Dr. Tope, and I want to see that picture. That deserves like its own hashtag and like the story behind it, which is here. I love it. Thank you for sharing that. I'm not a mom yet, but you just give me hope that in the future, this is something we actually can go ahead and do. Because a lot of times we think, as millennial women, and not that I'm speaking for all millennial women, but I know the conversations I have with my friends, we think, okay, we have to check this box, check this box, check this box, and then finally we can move on to this, when in reality, it's like blending the worlds together, because we're never going to have that perfect like work-life balance. I call it work-life integration, because that's just what it is, But for me, my story for that, it's a little bit different. And I don't know if it goes all the way to like just my upbringing, the culture, but it is who I am. And I had a time in my life where I was definitely like juggling it all, and one ball was dropping, but another one was being added into the mix. Now, the way that I got started into the entrepreneurial world was I accidentally launched a nonprofit. And I say accidentally because that was not part of the plan. I made a post on Instagram that went a little viral, and overnight we had a group of 300 women that wanted to form a community together. So I had a full-time like 9-to-5 job. And at that time I'm like, okay, well, I guess this is what we're going to do, because as women, like we show up, So I built a nonprofit. After having gone through that, I built up the courage to actually launch my own business as well. So it was juggling those things, where the nonprofit, we did end up closing it during quarantine, just because all of the work that we were doing, it was all in the community. But at that point, I was juggling 3 businesses. And let me tell you, I kept just pouring and pouring and pouring. And it's one where you're just giving and giving and giving. Oh, did I also mention that I was a student as well? So add that into the mix, where 2020 was the year that I learned boundaries. And I also learned to say no. and advocate for myself. I really sat down with myself and I said, Lorena, where do you see yourself, 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now? And it's one where you can only give so much. What are the things that are most important to you? And that's the business that I'm currently working on right now. I knew that I had to double down and start actually setting boundaries. And I joke, I just closed my semester right now. And my husband said, okay, so what's the next project that you're going to start adding into the plate? And the joke is no, we're not going to add any more projects. But that whole learning to say no, game changer. I had it on a Post-it note. So every single time when friends or family or anybody was reaching out, hey, we need this. Okay, not right now. And then see how we can make this work. So I'm telling you, game changer and learning to say no. The final thing I'll say on this is Earth Day. We just had Earth Day, just a couple of weeks ago. And I remember saying, you know what, unpopular opinion, but before we actually do anything to give back to this amazing, beautiful earth, let's put ourselves first. We need to pour into our cups, because if we pour into our cups, we are fully showing up. We can do that for Mother Earth in a sustainable manner versus just showing up one day. And so that kind of started, it opened up a lot of conversations with my friends where, okay, what are we doing to pour into our cup first, so that way it can run us over, and that way we can continue to grow and to give. So I love this question, and I love that Lorena is the one that says no, because Lorena was always a yes person, and now she's not right now, but we'll figure out when.
Yeah, it's a common thing that I see, particularly of women leading companies, is that they spread themselves so thinly. And to put it really succinctly, the power of your yes is defined by what you say no to. If you don't say no to the thing that you didn't say yes to, and the amount of things you say yes to means you do nothing brilliantly. So it's one that's my way of saying it. The power of your yes is defined by what you say no to. All right, I'm going to combine the next couple of questions together because we're running out of time, and I do want to make sure we get through everything. So we've kind of touched on a little bit about that there are barriers out there for women-led companies, whether it's more difficult to raise funding, perhaps it's more difficult to just get in the door in the first place, be believed as technical leaders, as people who can run companies. What are some of the disadvantages that you've found as you've started companies and been out in startup land? And Topo, we'll go to you first.
Okay, I think this is a really great question, because as a founder, as an entrepreneur, you go through so many ups and downs. And usually when you hear stories, you hear the end, right? You hear the end from the person who didn't stop, the end from the person who became, this success, and you don't hear the ups and downs. And so for us with raising, we went back and forth because there's this very sequential model of you put in your own funds, you raise money from family and friends, you do, pre-seed series. And we didn't really have the networks for that. Our family, we have a lot of entrepreneurs, but as 6-figure earners with doctorate degrees, we generally pour in, right? And so we never thought that we would ask our family for anything, because we always felt like we should give. But when our family started to see what we were building, when they were seeing the news articles, our babies in Yahoo Finance, and these sort of things, they said, we want to give. And so that was really beautiful for us to bring that. And so we had so much more confidence when we were talking to investors that our community has our back. Our family has our back. And what we found was that helped us so much, because there are so many cultural contexts that are within that room when you're raising money. And sometimes when we are working 2 and 3 jobs, or we don't have a lot of capital, some of that anxiety and some of that, I have to get this, I'm so hungry, comes out. And because a lot of the VCs didn't have to experience that, it's harder for them to connect with you. And once we started to get that support, we had a similar, it's hard to explain, but it's we had this sort of ease that the conversations got just more productive and more open and more efficient, because we had this it's hard to articulate. It's we had this connection at a certain level. I don't know. Maybe it'll come to me in a more articulate way later. I thought I would say it articulately today. But, you know, being a female founder, there were just so many different cultural contexts that we had to navigate. But we were fortunate to have a chance meeting with Arlen Hamilton. And I was reading her book, and, you know, I'd followed her. I used to teach at a HBCU. And so I talked a lot about what her fund has done and other funds similar to really inspire our students that, yes, you're going to be in these rooms with people who aren't like you and maybe didn't have your background, but there are funds being started by people who are like you and who, you know, can cut through that and really hear what you're saying. So when I had the ability to be in her book club, I jumped at the chance, and I was so busy, I didn't really read the description that well, because when she popped up as a real person in that room, I was like, oh, let me turn my camera on, you know. And so from that, she asked us what our headline would be on a newspaper about our company. And I said, you know, Reflect Me humanizes the dehumanized by giving diversity a reflection. And it was during this time, you know, we were all just so emotional with what was happening in the world. And I just like, that's what I want our company to do. And so we had, you know, the due diligence and subsequent meetings, and she did invest in us. So that was, you know, just a really, I tell that story because funds like Backstage Capital, you know, Harlem, you know, just all these wonderful funds are being created. There's a space for us to raise in a way. And because she invested in us, that again gave us that lift, you know, to be able to have these conversations in a way where we could be more relaxed and know that our community has our back, but also we want to connect across, you know, boundaries as well. So I hope that made sense. But that was, you know,
that was awesome. How about you, Lorena? What sort of some of the barriers that you faced as a founder?
I want to echo everything that Dr. Tope just mentioned. And I want to answer this actually a little bit differently. And I know that we're running out of time, so I'll keep it nice, short, and simple. To all the women that are here, that are attending, that are seeing change needs to happen, not just in the products, you know, that are being built, but also, like Dr. Tope mentioned, we need investors that look like us. We need investors that understand the problems that we face. So if you're a woman in STEM and you're like, okay, I don't know, I kind of want to be entrepreneurial, but I'm more like, I want to advise or I want to help. Guess what? You can be an advisor as well. You can start off being like an angel investor. Arlen Hamilton's most recent fund, like you could even invest like with $100 and be a part of that fund when you're doing that. So I would say, think about other avenues that exist to help lower the barriers for people like us as well. Because if you're working at Microsoft, you're working at these amazing companies, you're making money, have your money work for you as well, and you're helping your community. The final thing is, let's talk about the stats. The stats, we know how horrible they are for women. And then in 2020, Dr. Tope, I'm sure you know this, but they also dropped the investment funds. Women of color, we get like 0.67% out of all of the funds. So we need to know that. And like Dr. Tope said, you go into the room and they will feel that, where it's the pressure. So you got to know that when you're building these relationships, my number one piece of advice will say is, if you know you're going to be fundraising, start building those relationships 3 to 6 months prior, if not like sometime before. And that's just advice that I've been giving, where reach out to them and say, hey, this is what I'm working on. I'm super passionate about addressing this problem. I'd love to go ahead and chat with you to tell you about it. So that way VCs, maybe they don't have a fund, you know, that they're investing right now, but they want to see the journey and the story that you're in. So that way they can see the growth. So start telling people, don't hold on to that idea, shout it to the world. And the final thing is, because my story is a little different from Dr. Tope, like I'm in the position where I can't even go ahead and ask family as much as they want to go ahead and support, because my people like me, we are the ones that are still supporting our family. So, you know, we can't do that. So even if you're a person that's in a similar position like myself, know that you can do it. You know, Ruth asked that question earlier, how does tech play into what you do? Tech makes it so easy to launch. A SaaS company doesn't require that much overhead. So just know that you can get started, like start building now, you know, and then you can go ahead and fix it. And the great thing, you know, I'll do a plug here for Microsoft. I learned about them maybe like 5-6 months ago. Ruth actually came to talk to our Female Founder School program, and she just left me wowed, where I thought months, we're going to be implementing some AI into our solution. I thought we were going to have to build it from scratch. No, we actually can partner with companies like Microsoft to help us do that. You don't have to reinvent the wheel or start from scratch. You can partner with amazing companies like this, you know, people like Annie, and they'll facilitate those introductions and get you to the right people. So leverage into your community. You're attending here, reach out to us. And I know that you can reach out to the Microsoft team and they will get you connected and make this happen. Because I would love, you know, to check in a year from now and hear about women that started, women that are now investing, and women that are just being amazing by following their passion. So I answered it a little differently, but that's my take on it.
No, that was a beautiful way to wrap up the session, I think, Lorena. Thank you so much, ladies. Dr. Tope Mitchell, Lorena Soriano, and of course, my fabulous co-host, Ruth Yakubu. This was an amazing conversation. We hope it inspires more women that look like us to get started, to get involved, to get invested, to get mentoring. Do whatever you can. Please do get started. And thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for sharing the awesome stories. This was inspirational.
Thank you.
Thank you.